All right, you guys ready to start the show?
This weekend, a really good friend of mine, Jesse Malin, sent me a video of him. I don't know if any of you guys saw this. He did Rock and Roll Radio, the Ramones song with Bruce Springsteen. And it's just a trip seeing like your bro rehearsing a Ramones song with the boss. You're just like, is this really happening? Did someone edit this together? And it made me think about, I wouldn't really know anything about Bruce Springsteen at all because I grew up a punker. Any punk band, that's what I was about. Just like skateboarding, punk rock, thank you very much. I've been that way my whole life. Like I eat tuna fish sandwich every day. Not once in a while, every day. I've eaten a dolphin by now, I know it. So I moved to Los Angeles and I needed to find a roommate and I met this guy, Bill Armstrong. And our common ground was we both loved Black Flag. We both loved circle jerks. We both loved skateboarding. He grew up in Santa Barbara, I grew up in San Jose. So there was definitely a bond. We knew that. And at one point, I remember I was taking a road trip and Bill says, hey man, have you ever listened to Nebraska by Bruce Springsteen? And I'm like, no. And I held ground like a real punker. No, I don't listen to Springsteen. Born in the USA, fuck that. Bill's like, look, do me a favor, take this, now this is gonna age Bill and I. Take this cassette and take it with you on the road. Listen to it on the way up to Santa Cruz. I'm like, okay. And he's like, and then when you get up there after you're done listening to it, tell me what you think about it. Halfway through the road trip, I end up calling him. I'm like, dude, I was wrong. What is this record? He's like, it was a throwaway record too. You know, record he just made, I think in a living room. Like, how do you write music? Lyrically, musically, his vocals. And I was like, wow. So that was the beginning of my taste of Springsteen. Now fast forward, 2005, Jesse Malin, really, really close buddy of mine. They call him the mayor of New York City, right? He comes to town. He goes, we're gonna go to Pantages Theater and see Springsteen acoustic. I'm like, no way. Go inside. We are like front row, like boom, there's the boss just in front of us. And I'm just watching Springsteen and we watch the whole set and it gets done. And at that point, I just was like, that was enough. That was amazing. We get up and Jesse says, hey, let's go backstage. Let's go backstage. I want you to meet Bruce. We walk backstage. Jesse gets taken into the dressing room. Now I'm outside. And I'm just sitting there waiting. And all of a sudden, everyone's waiting to see Springsteen. Door opens up. Springsteen's handler comes out and says, you Joe? Yeah, come on. I walk by all these people. Now I'm suddenly in Springsteen's dressing room. He has no shirt on. Shirtless Springsteen within seconds. And he's sitting there and he's got this bag and he's putting all his stuff together. And then Jesse says, hey, this is my buddy Joe Sib. And Bruce says, hey, I heard you have something to do with the Warped Tour. We take the kids every year. And he does. Every year in New Jersey, he takes his kids to the Warped Tour. And I was like, yeah, and we shook hands. And he put his shirt on and put his bag. And he was just doing all his stuff. And I was like, wow, I just saw Springsteen. And then now I'm meeting him. And I look at Jesse and I'm just like, what a great friend to take me on this journey. And I'm just like, Jesse, thank you so much for this night. I mean, first of all, I get to see Springsteen. Then I met him and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, God, let me take you back to your hotel. And I'm like just high as a kite right now. He goes, hey, check it out. We're gonna go have dinner now with Bruce. I remember I started to get kind of pissed. Like I'm like, it's gonna be 1 million people and cameras. He's like, it's just gonna be us. He's like, oh, just take me down there. So we go down to Wilshire. To Kate Manalini's, right? And we pull up and sure enough, there's security outside, but there's no one there. And we park our car and we walk into the restaurant. Restaurant is shut down. I'm like, okay. And I'm walking through. All of a sudden we go into a room. There's a table in there. And we walk in together and at the end of the table, there he is, Bruce Springsteen, just sitting there. And I'll never forget it because when I went in, he was eating onion rings. And I walk over and he says, oh, yeah, you sit right here, Jesse, I want you to sit over here. And I'm like, God, this is crazy. And as I go to sit down, I sit down and I look directly across from me, about 1.5 feet, and it's the Edge from U2. And he says, hi, I'm the Edge. And I say, hi, I'm Joe Sib. I am face to face with the Edge. Like, U2 as a punker was cool. Like, I'm face to face with them. And I keep looking, I don't know who to look at. Do I look at the Edge? Do I look at Springsteen? Do I look at the Edge? Do I look at Springsteen? And then I'm just sitting at the table, and Jesse could tell. He's like, Joe, do you need a drink? I'm like, yes, I do. And at that moment, all that was going through my head was, Joe, this is the night, for once in your life, shut the fuck up. There's nothing that you need to say to either of these men. There's nothing that you've done in your life, even if you tried really hard from this point on to the end of your life, that is even comparable to anything that these guys have done possibly today. Bruce, his guy comes in, he says, hey, Bruce, want to let you know, solo record, #1. And you know, you'd think at that point that Springsteen might just be like, yeah, it's cool. He was like, really like, wow, like #1, debuted #1, and it just hit him. And then the Edge was like, #1 record. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, guys. You guys have been here, done that before, right? They're like, they were just so excited. And the thing that was even more amazing was them talking about all of the artists that they were into. They were so in touch with what was going on musically. They weren't like, remember when we did this? Remember when they did that? They just wanted to talk about new artists. At a certain point, they start talking to me and they say, hey, so you own a record company. What is that like? They were asking me so many questions about what I do. It was more questions than either one of my parents have ever asked me in my entire life. And we started drinking wine, and everyone's getting a little buzzed, and it's going, and it's just like, I'm talking to the Edge. Now I'm sitting by the Edge. I got my arm around the Edge. You know, Bruce is talking about this, and at one point, Bruce was like, well, you know, it's different with labels. And I just blurted out, hey, Bruce, no problem with you being on SideOneDummy anytime. And he looked at Jesse and gave him that look like, this guy's fucking a little crazy right now. And I remember at one point, this was the thing that just hit me so hard, was the Edge asked Bruce, hey, we're gonna be in New York in about a month, finishing up our tour. Would you like to come to the show? Madison Square Gardens. I think they did 3 nights. He's like, would you like to come to the show? And without skipping a beat, Bruce said, you know, when I'm home, I kind of like just to stay at home. And I looked at the Edge and I said, I will fucking go in a second. And we looked at each other like the Edge came to see Bruce and was into it, but Bruce was like, I don't know if I need to go see U2 at Madison Square Garden. I don't know if I need to do that right now. And it was a trip to see the Edge go, okay, yeah, I get it. You know? That night, we all walked out together, and I'll never forget, as long as I live, I gave the Edge a Flogging Molly CD. He was talking about Dave King and knew Dave from Ireland, and just was so psyched that Dave and Flogging Molly had been on Side One, which was amazing for me to think that this guy cared about it. And we all walked out together, and I remember I got home that night at like 4:30 in the morning, and I get into bed, and of course, I've been married to the same woman for 20-something years. She's like, whoa, how was tonight? It's like 4:30. And I remember I said, yeah, I just went out with Jesse after the show. She's like, really? What did you guys do for 9 hours together? And I remember I said, we had dinner with Bruce Springsteen and the Edge. And it was really quiet, and then all of a sudden she just turned the light on and said, what? And we just started talking about it. We stayed up till 6 a.m. telling that entire story right there. That's my concert experience right there for you.